Hey man,
What's up, buddy? How are you?
I'm doing good. How's the mortgage world this week?
Decent. Not as busy as last week, but few apps, few contracts, nothing crazy, but steady. So that which is totally fine for this time of year. Interest rates really, they didn't really help us any this week. So
What were they
past
looking
couple
like?
days have just been a bloodbath, to be honest with you. So
Really? What were rates
yeah,
looking like this week?
I mean we're back up into the mid fives.
Hmm.
So it is what it is. I mean, as I tell people, we just have to lock. We got to lock in the dips. It's been a roller coaster all year. So which we've talked about. It's just locking in the dips, and that's what I get paid to do is to watch the market all day, every day, as I do. And so once I feel like it's a good time to lock, we lock. So I mean,
Yeah,
it's
that's good. Yeah, that's good to know. Listen to that. That's really, really good advice is stay in touch with your lender, with your loan officer. Hopefully that has been,
yeah.
and stay in touch with them or they'll let you know. Go ahead and get that application started. That way you can get locked in a rate. And once somebody's locked in a rate, how long can they stay locked in at that rate?
Well, we can lock anywhere from 7 days to 360 days.
Oh,
So,
really? Okay.
of course, the longer the rate term, or excuse me, the longer the rate is locked for, the more expensive it is, right? So,
Sure.
of course, the rate's better on a 7 day lock versus a 360-day lock, right? Just because of how the investors hedge money and where they think rates are going. So, because they're holding that on their warehouse line. So,
Yeah.
um, most typically everybody locks for 30 days.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So that 30-day period is, let's say they locked this week. Do they need to be closed within 30 days for that
Yeah.
that rate lock? Okay.
Yep. Or we have to extend the rate, or we have to look at what market price is. If, there's sometimes where we can actually let the rate expire and relock it at that same rate without charging the borrower for a rate lock extension. I mean, it
Mhm.
happens. New construction, house is delayed, or their contract falls out on the place that they were selling. There's always something, but we're really good about being able to go in and renegotiating that rate lock without passing the fees along to the borrower. Um, so we just have to look at it. And even if we're lucky enough that we work with so many banks that even if you lock today, let's say you lock today at 5.5 and rates plummet in 10, 15 days, that doesn't mean that we can't bring that back to that investor and say, hey, we need to renegotiate that rate and lower it down the market. We do have that ability up to a certain point.
Mhm.
We can't do it, we can't do it 3 days before closing, right?
Gotcha.
Just because of APR and some TRID guidelines, right, that we have to follow about, changing APR by a certain percentage, we have to redisclose, which that means if we have to redisclose, then outside of a change of circumstance, we would have to start the 3 day waiting period again for the CD closing disclosure. So
What if somebody, let's say that they needed to, the rates went down, they wanted to renegotiate the rate, and they're
yep.
closing in 7 days. What's the possibility of doing? I mean, a lot of this is on my end, but have you ever seen this happen where they extend the closing in order to get that lower rate?
I've seen it done. I mean, luckily in the great state of Georgia, we have that 8 day unilateral, right? So,
Mhm.
like, if you're representing the buyer, and let's say the buyer didn't sign that CD, well, you could always whip out your 8 day unilateral, right? And the seller can't really say anything about that 8 day unilateral besides them getting might get upset that you just
Yeah,
whipped out an 8 day unilateral on them.
it's in the purchase and sale. It says that you can
Right. And
use that
so
8 day.
that gives that buyer an opportunity to, if we do need to renegotiate rate at that point with the investor or bank, then yeah, we can do so. But we try not to do that because everybody's reputation's on the line, right? Yours, mine,
Right.
buyers. Like, the last thing we want to do is make the other party upset because we just handed them an 8 day unilateral that they can't do anything about.
Right. What would it look like? What does the scenario look like if somebody gets locked in on a mortgage with a 5.5% interest rate and they want to refinance in 12 months or less to get a lower rate when the rates go down? What does that process look like? How difficult is it? How expensive is it? What does it look like on their home equity?
Of course, we did a ton of refinances in 2020 and 2021. People were coming out of that anybody that we closed anywhere from like 16 to 19, where the rates were in, let's say, the 4 to 5 range. Okay. A lot of those people were able to go down into the low 3s, high 2s, right? And with the amount of data that Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac had, we weren't even ordering appraisals, right? We didn't have to. Like, the system gave us appraisal waivers, so we saved money. We didn't have to do an appraisal. And a lot of those people had so much equity in their home, they were getting rid of mortgage insurance. And as far as the closing costs go, probably 98% of the deals that we closed, the person who was refinancing, they just rolled the closing costs into their new loan amount because they already gained so much equity. They weren't really losing anything. Some people were like, no, you know what? I don't want to finance the closing costs into my loan amount. That's fine too. You can, bring $4,000 to $6,000 at closing, whatever it takes to refi. Set up your new escrow account.
Well, a lot of those folks, they probably had their mortgages for 3 to 5 years, if not more. What is the difference from there to somebody who has a mortgage for only 12 months and wants to refinance just to get a lower rate? Is it advantageous to do that, or does it end up being more expensive to do that and try to get that lower rate?
It just all, and then my number one question that I ask them: how long do you think you're going to be in this home? If they're like, yeah, you know what, I think we're going to move in a couple of years, it's not worth it. Right? Mm-hmm. Because we have to look at return on investment. Mm-hmm. So if it costs $5,000 to refi and you're saving $200 a month, okay? So let's just do the math here. 5,000 divided by 200. Okay, that's 25 months till you start seeing a return on your investment financially. Okay? So if you think that you're going to move in 2 years, save the money. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Don't do it. If
the rates dropped to let's say the rates dropped back down to the 3s? Let's say they were at 5.5. 12 months from now, they're down in the 3s.
That's huge.
Okay. Yeah.
It's huge. Right. But then again, it doesn't matter how much the rate drops. We have to look at the return on investment. How much money you're saving? What's the cost of it? And then how long you think you're going to be in this house? I always tell people, like, all right, how long are you going to be in this home? You think? They're like, you know what? I think we're going to be here 3 to 5 years. Okay, it makes sense.
Right. Okay. So
if they say, oh yeah, you know what? We plan on leaving in a year and a half. Don't do it.
Right.
I would be telling you wrong if I said, yeah, let's go ahead and refi. I mean, that's not really how I operate. So
at the current rate, it's about $1,800 a month mortgage. There aren't a whole lot of single family homes, but you can buy a townhome or a condo and start in the city in Atlanta and start building some equity.
I mean, and you can get a deal on a condo and townhome in Metro Atlanta right now. I think there's more. There's more of those listed right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Those start coming back. Those start coming back first. Yeah,
they do, and there's nothing wrong with a condo.
No, absolutely not. As long as you're building equity. I mean, and if you look at, if you're okay with living in a building because you're living in an apartment, why not own that condo?
Seriously,
let it appreciate, build the equity. If there are, rent restrictions or there's a wait list to rent, you could hold on to that several years from now, rent it out, and move on to the next one. You can pull equity out of that to do, for a down payment on your next house 3 to 5 years from now.
Yeah, you keep it as a rental.
Exactly. I mean, that is how. I mean, we've talked about this before too, but that's how your net worth starts going up, right? Your net worth doesn't start increasing by any sort of great value by you putting $100 a month into your savings account. It starts going up by you buying a home, owning that property, and then your net worth goes up on its own. I mean, as you build equity.
You're losing money in a savings account right now. I mean, if you think about it with inflation, right? I mean, especially, if you have any wealth in a money market or savings account and you're getting paid 0.35%, on XYZ dollar amount, but inflation's at 8.5%. I mean, do the math. Right. You might as well, you got to put it somewhere, start gaining some real true value.
Right. And, we don't really, you and I on this show don't really talk about the stock market very much. Even though we both, do have some investments in the stock market. But historically, I feel like real estate is the place to put your money, just because that they're not making any more land, right? I mean, everybody, you hear that. We've heard that before.
Yeah.
They're not making any more land. So if you've got a piece of it and if you own that piece, people are always going to want to buy that no matter what. People are always going to want, there's always going to be value on that, where, some businesses may not be around 10 years from now that you have stock in.
And, people call me crazy, which I might be a little bit, but I would rather own a lot than have money in the stock market.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I have 401ks and IRAs and all that fun stuff. I sold all my blue chip stocks in December. I'm totally out of the day trading model. Mm-hmm. And I would so much rather put that money in buying lots. Yeah, 401ks, IRAs. Yep, I do though to max those out for tax benefits. I get that, but I'm not buying the Boeings of the world and Apple and all that stuff. I could care less about that. I would seriously rather go buy a lot.
Yeah, I agree. So we're back. We were kind of got off on a tangent with buying, but I think that I agree. I think anybody who really thinks about it, if you live in Atlanta and you're paying rent, you should not be paying rent. If you're in a position to buy a house, you should buy, or a condo, you should buy a condo.
100%.
I mean, there's really no reason not to. You're not saving money by waiting to buy.
And we're not putting renters down, because everybody's situation is totally different.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Absolutely. You have to rent for credit purposes or job, right, or past, bankruptcies or foreclosure. We get it. I mean, life happens. But if you're able to buy, just look at the hard numbers.
Absolutely. I totally.
And there's always going to be renters, and that's fine. Yeah. Some people are just renters for life, and that's all about it. I mean,
right.
It's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. Not putting down renters. We all rented. I rented for a very long time. Yeah. The reason why I stress it so much is because I rented for a very long time when I didn't have to rent. I just didn't, at the time, in my, late 20s and early 30s, nobody had educated me on the importance of buying and building equity.
Yep.
I really didn't understand it. I didn't get which is crazy, but I didn't. And so, I know a lot of people that are in a position to buy right now that don't realize that they're in a position to buy. Yeah. That don't realize how simple it is, how easy it is, and and don't understand all the benefits of it too.
Next week, maybe we need to do a whole segment on buying versus renting, and I can actually prepare a buy versus rent analysis. Yeah. Let's say for Cobb County or Fulton County, just so we can look at historical appreciation and forecasted appreciation for the next 5 years, just so people can really see okay, the average rent in Fulton County is $2,200. That can get me this, and really look at the net advantages over a 5-year period of equity and appreciation gain. Because you got to think, not only are you gaining appreciation every month, but you're also gaining equity every month through reduction in principal on payments.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's a 2-win deal.
Yeah. So back on the selling thing real quick, because we're at 30 minutes, so that's pretty much the end of the show. But back on the selling thing, since we are talking about selling, if you are you're thinking about selling, fall season historically is still a great time to sell. You're going to have less competition because there's normally less listings in the fall, but there are buyers. And I know this year, different than others, there are still more buyers now, just like there were back in last year, who are just waiting for something to come on the market that really strikes their interest because inventory is still so low. We've talked about inventory picking up, which it has, but we're still at only 2 months. So inventory is still very low. So if you're looking to sell, your competition is going to be lower in August, and you're still going to have some buyers. Be prepared as a seller to understand the market, understand your competition and the comps, take the advice of your agent, and just be ready to go on the market and compete in the market that we're in right now. So that's all I got, Ben. All right, Ben. Talk to you soon, man.
Have a good day.